Morning, everyone. The last class I have discussed about Ellis classification and its management, and today's my class is on luxation injuries. Luxation injuries is basically displacement of the tooth in its socket. In the socket is termed as luxation. So luxation is a displacement or a movement of the tooth in the socket is termed as luxation injury. So when you look at in Ellis classification, class 7 comes under luxation injury, displacement of the tooth. So class 7 comes under luxation injury. So today I'll be talking about the luxation injuries in detail. So what are the luxation injuries? I told you before. So displacement of the tooth in the socket is termed as luxation injury. Under that, you have concussion, subluxation, lateral luxation, extrusive luxation, intrusive luxation, and avulsion. Okay. So under luxation injuries, you have concussion, subluxation, lateral luxation, extrusive luxation, intrusive luxation, and avulsion. Okay. All these five injuries I will discuss in this class. Avulsion itself, I'll take a separate class. That is next class I will be talking about avulsion in detail because avulsion itself can be expected as essay question. So many areas are there to discuss in the avulsion. So I'll be talking about avulsion injuries in the next class. So we'll go to each injury one by one. So concussion. So concussion is defined as an injury to the tooth supporting structures without abnormal loosening or displacement of the tooth. So an injury to tooth supporting structures without abnormal loosening or displacement of the tooth is termed as concussion. So in the previous first class introduction to trauma, I have shown one table where abnormal loosening and displacement of the tooth. In that, both are negative for concussion. So you don't have loosening of the tooth or displacement of the tooth. It's just a injury to the tooth supporting structures. That is termed as concussion. So how does it clinically appear? The only deviation from normal is marked tenderness to percussion. So there is no mobility, nothing is there. So when you percuss the tooth, they have a tenderness. That is the only deviation from the normal. So a small injury has occurred to the periodontal ligament. Because of that, you have a tenderness when you do a percussion. So in the radiograph, the tooth is found to be normal in its position in the socket. There is no movement of the tooth in the socket. So it appears normal. And the biological consideration, the impact results in injury to the periodontal ligament, including edema and bleeding. You may have a, because of the injury to the periodontal ligament, you may have a edema and bleeding. Further effect of the impact may be damage to the neurovascular supply to the pulp. If the impact is too much, so it will may damage to the neurovascular supply to the pulp. What is the treatment? So since tenderness on percussion is there, if any tooth touches to the offending tooth, they may have a tenderness. So slightly occlusal readjustment of the opposing tooth and repeated periodic testing, vitality testing during follow-up. So if needed, you have to keep it out of occlusion or that is if the severe pain is there, you have to do some occlusal adjustment to the opposing tooth, just a finishing work. Okay, if needed you can write a mild analgesics. If they say pain is there, you can write a mild analgesics. And then in the follow up, check for the vitality test of the offending tooth, so that the tooth is becoming non vital, you have to go for the root canal therapy. So as such, not much treatment is required for this. So just occlusal adjustment of the opposing tooth. Okay, and periodically vitality testing for the offending tooth in the follow-ups. So the next one is subluxation. So subluxation is an injury to the tooth supporting structure with abnormal loosening but without displacement of the tooth. So injury to the tooth supporting structure with abnormal loosening but without displacement of the tooth. So there is a loosening of the tooth will be there, but you don't see any displacement of the tooth. When there is no displacement of the tooth and you see only the loosening of the tooth, that is called as subluxation. And what is the clinical appearance? Tooth is mobile, sulcus bleeding can be seen. So tooth is mobile and you can see a sulcus bleeding. You can see in the photograph that there is a sulcus bleeding. it indicates periodontal bleeding. Okay, and in the radiographic appearance, the tooth appears normal in its position in the socket. So the tooth up in the radiographic appearance, the tooth appears normal in its position in the socket. In the clinical appearance, you can see a sulcus bleeding. So what is the biological consideration? The impact results in injury to the periodontal ligament. So you can see edema, bleeding, and sometimes lacerations of the periodontal ligament, which you cannot see clinically. They're all biological consideration. As a result of any trauma, you can see edema, bleeding, and sometimes lacerations of the periodontal ligament. And apart from that, neurovascular supply to the pulp may or may not be intact. So it may be affected or may not be affected. It depends on the severity of the trauma. Okay, so this is about the biological considerations. And what is the treatment? It is very much similar to the concussion injury, occlusal readjustment of the opposing tooth. If needed, you have to do the periodic vitality testing during follow-ups, repeated periodic vitality testing during follow-ups. And then if multiple teeth are involved, splinting might be required for subluxation. So if 3 to 4 teeth are involved, and to keep that stabilized, splinting might be required. If multiple teeth are involved, if single tooth, there is no treatment required. Okay. What is a lateral luxation? Lateral luxation, this trauma implies lateral eccentric displacement of the tooth in its socket. Eccentric displacement of the tooth in its sockets is termed as lateral luxation and is accompanied by comminution or fracture of the alveolar bone plates. So it is usually accompanied by comminution or the fracture of the alveolar bone plate. So lateral eccentric displacement of the tooth, which involves the fracture of the either labial alveolar plate or palatal alveolar bone plate. So that is called as lateral luxation. The tooth appears displacement in its socket usually in a palatal direction. That means tooth has moved towards palatally, and the tooth is immobile due to its locked position in the socket, and there is a high ankylosing percussion tone, and there may or may not be bleeding from the gingival, so root apex can be palpated in the sulcus area. So since tooth has displaced in the palatal direction, tooth has moved into the palatally and it gets locked there, so the tooth is immobile because it is locked in that position, the tooth is immobile. So basically eccentric displacement of the tooth uh, in its socket is termed as lateral luxation, and most of the times the tooth moves towards palatally. When it moves, it get locked in that, so tooth is immobile. Okay. What are the biological consideration? The presence of fracture of a labial bone plate as well as a compression zone in the cervical area palatally, and the treatment principle implies repositioning to facilitate pulpal and periodontal healing, and the tooth should be splinted during the healing period due to marked remodeling process. So due to the fracture of the labial bone plate, you can see a compression zone in the cervical area of palatally, and tooth need to be repositioned back. Okay, these are the main biological considerations. And radiographically, a steep or eccentric radiographic exposure is necessary to disclose displacement. The tooth appears displaced with the apical or lateral part of the socket is empty. So you can see in the radiograph, a radiolucency is seen at the apical region. So the tooth appears displaced. So with the apical or lateral part of the socket is empty. So you can see a radiolucent area in the apical part of the socket. That means tooth has moved. So you can see a emptiness in the socket at the apical or lateral part of the socket. What is the treatment? The displaced tooth is usually locked firmly in its new position. So you give a local anesthesia, and then the tooth can be repositioned using a forceps or using with the fingers. So with the pressure in an incisal direction over the apex, whereby the tooth is first slightly extruded to disengage the apex and then repositioned in an apical direction. So you need to get back the tooth to its original position. So for that, you need to give local anesthesia because it is a painful condition. then the tooth can be repositioned using forceps or with the fingers with pressure in an incisal direction over the apex. You have to give a pressure in the incisal direction whereby the tooth is first slightly extruded. So when you give a pressure in the incisal direction, the tooth will be slightly extruded to disengage the apex so that the apex will be disengaged and then repositioned in an apical direction. So you can reposition it back in the apical direction. When repositioning, occlusion should be checked and a radiograph need to be taken to verify its correct repositioning. After you reposition it back, you need to check the occlusion and then verify it with the radiograph whether the reposition is correct or wrong. So you need to get back the tooth to its original position. That is what lateral luxation, the tooth has moved back into palatal direction. So give LA and keep a pressure at the apical direction so that the tooth is slightly extruded and you disengage the apex and reposition it in the apical direction. So get it back to the original position and reposition it and check the radiograph whether it is properly repositioned it or not, and then if needed you can do the splinting with the adjacent teeth. Okay, once you get back the tooth to its normal position, you need to do the splinting. The splinting should be a non-rigid splint and it should be there for 3 to 4 weeks. So you place a thin orthodontic wire for the offending tooth and both the adjacent teeth and then splinted with the help of a composite material. That's a non-rigid splint. And after 4 weeks, you take a radiograph and check in the clinically. If you see any marginal or periodontal breakdown, if you don't see any signs of marginal or periodontal breakdown, you can remove the splint. You can remove the splint. But if you see any signs of marginal bone or periodicular breakdown, then you have to keep for another 3 to 4 weeks. So it needs some more time for the healing. Since the damage has been occurred in the lateral luxation, there are chances of tooth for going for non-vital because of the damage to the periodontal ligament and the resorption. Chances of resorption can occur. One thing is that you can check in the periodic checkups if it is becoming resorption, you have to do the root canal therapy, or if you feel the damage extent is more, you can do the root canal therapy uh, in the beginning itself. So after splinting, when you check any radiolucency is developing, you can do the root canal therapy and then finish it off. Okay, so this is about the lateral luxation. Then the other one is, next one is extrusive luxation. The lesion, this lesion is defined as an injury whereby the tooth suffers axial displacement. That means partially out of the tooth socket. So that is extrusive luxation is defined as injury to the tooth periodontal ligament where it causes axial displacement. That means partially out of the socket. So clinical appearance, the tooth appears elongated and it usually displaced palatally. The tooth is loose and mobility is there with bleeding from the gingival sulcus. And the tooth appears dislocated with the apical part of the socket empty. So the tooth has moved out of the socket. So apical part of the socket will be empty. That is, the tooth is slightly extruded. So that's why the apical part of the socket is empty. So what are the biological considerations? Impact results in total disruption of the periodontal ligament attachment as well as rupture of the apical neurovascular bunding, causing excessive mobility of the tooth and pulp infraction. So due to the damage to the periodontal ligament attachment and rupture of the apical neurovascular bunding, it causes excessive mobility to the tooth as well as pulpal infraction. So healing implies nothing but reorganization and re-establishment of the continuity of the PDL periodontal ligament fibers as well as pulpal revascularization and re-innervation. So already damage has been occurred. So healing is nothing but, so these damaged periodontal ligament fibers has to be reorganized and re-established to their continuity level, and at the same time pulpal revascularization and re-innervation has to be occurred. So what is the treatment plan for this? The extruded tooth should be repositioned gently using an axial finger pressure on the incisal edge. So since the tooth has come out of the socket, you have to give for local anesthesia, and the extruder should be repositioned gently using a axial finger pressure on the inside the ledge. When the tooth is fully repositioned, check for the occlusion and again use a non-rigid splint. So take an orthodontic wire and place it to the offending tooth as well as to the adjacent teeth and use a composite to bond the wire to the tooth surfaces. And take a radiograph as a control tooth position and recall the patient after 2 to 3 weeks and take a new radiograph. If there is no signs of heart tissue changes, so remove the splint. So, since the extent of the damage is more in the extrusive luxation, you need to go for root canal therapy for the offending tooth. And if you see the signs of changes in the apical region at the follow-up, and extend the splint for another 4 weeks. So, for concussion injury and subluxation, there is no need of root canal therapy. For lateral luxation, may or may not be. So, depending on the clinical condition. For extrusive luxation, offending tooth needs root canal therapy. But if you are thinking, sir, how do we decide for the lateral luxation? If you feel damage is there, you can go for root canal therapy for lateral luxation also. So, root canal therapy is needed for lateral luxation and extrusive luxation. Okay. So the next one is intrusive luxation. In this type of luxation, the tooth is forced into the socket and locked in position into the pole. That means the tooth has moved into the apical direction. Clinically, the crown of the tooth appears shortened and there is bleeding from gingiva. The percussion tone is high and metallic. So when the tooth is moved into the apical direction, that is called as intrusive luxation, and the tooth appears dislocated in an apical direction with partial disappearance of the periodontal ligament space, and there is especially evident cervically. However, radiographic appearance is not always diagnostic, and a high ankylotic percussion tone is usually the pathognomic feature for diagnosis. So, high ankylotic percussion tone is usually the pathognomic feature for diagnosis. So, in biological consideration, intrusion represents a very complex wound. The maximum damage occurs in the intrusion injury. So, you have a damage to the PDL is highest in the intrusion injury, and when you compare with all the 5 injuries, highest for the intrusion injuries, and then like next comes the extrusion luxation, and next comes the lateral luxation, and next comes the subluxation, and last least injury is concussion. So intrusion represents a very complex wound, involves a disruption of the marginal gingival seal, contusion of the alveolar bone, and disruption of the periodontal ligament fibers, cementum, and disruption of the neurovascular supply to the pulp. So everything has been damaged. Such an injury involves contusion of all components of the dento-alveolar complex, implies severely compromised healing. However, spontaneous re-eruption can normally expected to occur in cases with incomplete root formation. If in elderly patient where the root apex is not completely formed, you can expect a re-eruption. That means the tooth will erupt by its own into the normal position. Okay. So what is the treatment? In open apex cases, regional anesthesia, sometimes it comes back to its original position, that is re-eruption. If not, using a re-infiltration or regional anesthesia, the tooth is grabbed with forceps and slightly loosened to release it from its locked position in bone and then is left to re-erupt. Since it is locked, you just release that locking position and leave it like that, and it itself re-erupt to its normal position. So the tooth is grabbed with forceps and slightly loosened to release it from its locked position in bone and left to re-erupt by its own. Whereas in teeth with closed apices, spontaneous re-eruption is not possible since the closed apex, that root formation has been completed. So you cannot expect a re-eruption in closed apex. So orthodontic extrusion is the treatment of choice. So if the tooth has been fully intruded, partial repositioning is necessary to permit the bonding of a bracket, or extrusion should be completed within 3 weeks of injury, and then root canal therapy should be done. A close follow-up is indicated and multiple complications can occur due to profound periodontal ligament and pulpal injuries. So in case of closed up excess, you have to look for orthodontic extrusion. So you provide a space for the placing the orthodontic bracket and then try to get back to its original position with the help of orthodontic extrusion, and all these process should be completed within 3 weeks of injury, because repair will be occurred after 3 weeks and getting back to its original position will become little tough after 3 weeks. So you have to complete it within 3 weeks of the injury. And as I told you previously, root canal therapy is needed for intrusive luxation. And another option is surgical repositioning, and surgical repositioning appears to be satisfactory healing up to the age of 12 years. After 12 years, it's better go with orthodontic extrusion. In case of surgical repositioning, it is important that lacerated gingiva is well adapted and sutured around the neck of the tooth. And flexible splint should be placed and maintained for 4 to 8 weeks. Flexible splint is needed because the tooth is mobile in all the lateral luxation, extrusive and intrusive injuries. Apart from this flexible splint, you need to go for root canal therapy. You need to go for root canal therapy, which is needed in all these injuries. Okay, so and depending on the timings, 4 weeks is normally indicated. If you feel that mobility has not come down, you can extend for another 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, so these are the sprinting that is needed in all these three injuries. So I have given a small table. You can look at this table. What are the types of injuries? Concussion, subluxation, lateral luxation, extrusive luxation, and intrusive luxation. So for which injury, splinting is needed and root canal therapy is needed. For concussion, you don't need splinting or root canal therapy. For subluxation, if multiple teeth are involved, splinting is needed and root canal therapy is not needed. For lateral luxation, extrusive luxation, and intrusive luxation, splinting is needed as well as root canal therapy is also needed. Okay. Apart from that, you patient has not taken any tetanus toxoid TT injection. They need to be taken that, and antibiotics and analgesics. Depending on the extent of the injury and infection, you can prescribe antibiotics, and depending on the extent of pain, you can prescribe mild or moderate or severe analgesics depending on the type of pain. So this is a general thing which is required for traumatic injuries. So this is about the luxation injuries. So this finishes about luxation injuries. In the next class, I'll be talking about avulsion. So I'll be talking about avulsion in the next class. Okay, thank you. So this finishes about the luxation injuries. So thank you. Okay, stay safe, stay home.